But one thing I think we have to address is the fact that everything in the world is on fire, and the people in America pay absolutely no attention to it. So I wanted to give you a list of things that you should probably be paying attention to that the mainstream media is not going to talk about with any level of depth. And these are all things that happened in the last month that you have not heard a lot about. One, war in Ukraine not going well for Ukraine. We've heard early in the war about the ineptitude of the Russian army. Well, they've gotten back into their groove, because at the beginning of the war, they tried something different from traditional Russian techniques. They tried to do a quick advance, take Kiev, and take the entire country in a weekend. Once that got beat back, Russia went back to their traditional Soviet-style tactics of simply bombing the hell out of cities until they take it. That's what they did in Chechnya. That's what they did in Georgia. That's what they're doing now in the Donbass region as well as the Luhansk region. In the coming weeks or so, we're going to see the assault on Odessa, which is in the southwest of Ukraine, and the last major port that's still under Ukrainian control. If Russia takes that, they'll have the complete control of the south of the country. They'll have a corridor to Moldova, which is a Russian sympathizing state. They will have Ukraine bracketed in from the north with Belarus to the south with Russian territory, and effectively, Ukraine will have to surrender. Number two, famine. Right now, Egypt is suffering because most of their wheat and grain comes from Ukraine and Russia. With those supplies being cut off as a result of the war, places like Egypt and other Middle Eastern and African nations that depend on those wheat and grain imports are literally starving right now. In India, President Modi decided to cut off all grain exports from the country. They are keeping all of their grain to themselves because they see the international instability in the commodities market. Because of this, we're seeing more pressure on American producers to meet the gap. What does that mean? Well, when you have more demand and less supply, that means that prices are going to go up. So if you're looking at the grocery store and saying, damn, these bell peppers are expensive, that's because of the global supply chain issues that exist as a result of disruptions which have cascaded down, not just because of the war. There's a La Nina in the southwest of the United States of America causing record temperatures and record droughts. The Colorado River Basin has nearly completely dried up. We're seeing the beginnings of the water wars in the southwest of the United States and the northwest of Mexico. These are things that are happening right now. Political instability on a multinational level, you should absolutely be worried about. The Prime Minister of Japan, the former Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe, pretty much the founding father of modern Japan, was assassinated this week. In a country that has nearly no guns and no guns deaths, an individual fashioned a black powder improvised gun. If you look at it, it's literally two pipes from Home Depot with a cap on the end, taped to a board. He put a little electric igniter inside of it, then strapped some batteries on it, and then put black powder. People think he got it from fireworks, and then a projectile in it, and made a two-shot weapon. Not much different than a musket or a blunderbuss. But he fired this. The first shot missed because clearly it's very inaccurate. The second shot hit Prime Minister Abe, killing him. This has set Japanese geopolitics into chaos. At the same time, literally a couple days later, we saw the government of Sri Lanka fall. There's been massive unemployment, massive financial mismanagement there. And because of this, the citizens raided the Prime Minister's palace. If you look at the video, you see people doing backflips into the swimming pool at the Prime Minister's palace. The government there has collapsed. In Israel, we have seen the coalition government that unseated Netanyahu fail and fall. So now Israel is headed towards its fifth set of elections in the last 2 years to try to establish a stable government there to handle all the international crises that exist on their borders. In the United Kingdom, Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, resigned as the head of the Conservative Party and should resign from being Prime Minister. He has decided that he is not resigning from being Prime Minister. This never happened in history. He is pulling a Trump. He is refusing to leave office despite the party and the government telling him he got to get out of there. So there will be a battle for power to replace Boris Johnson. We saw in France, Emmanuel Macron nearly losing to a populist Trump-like French candidate on the fringes there. Germany, which in large part has been holding the European Union together for the last decade under Angela Merkel, well, Olaf Scholz has shown that he is not up to the task of doing so. Climate crisis. It's going to be the hottest summer, the hottest year on record. We are, of course, seeing droughts throughout the Southwest, which have been exacerbated, as I mentioned, by the more powerful than normal La Nina. We're seeing global supplies that are already being pressured by the war in Ukraine. Well, global food supplies are also being pressured by unseasonably high temperatures and crop failures around the world, including in Central and South America and in Africa, which are leading to many of these migrant crises that are forcing people to borders around the world. So when we say there are other things going on in the world, Americans have to stop thinking that the world revolves around them. Yes, our little petty Republican versus Democrat debates seem important often, but right now the world is in a 1913 footing. Coming out of this pandemic, political instability in almost every major nation, active genocides going on in multiple countries around the world, political instability, economic instability, massive inflation. We're on the precipice of something big, and we all need to be educated about what is actually happening and what we need to do to protect ourselves and be ready.